So, you want to see some rocks? An introduction to my glorious expedition? They said, go to Patagonia, it'll change your life. And, well, they weren't entirely wrong. It certainly changed my bank balance, for one. And my appreciation for central heating, that's another. Patagonia. The very name conjures images of rugged adventurers, windswept plains, and mountains that scrape the sky with an almost aggressive enthusiasm. I, on the other hand, conjure images of a slightly bewildered man wondering if he packed enough socks, which, spoiler alert, I hadn't, never do. It's a fundamental flaw in my travel planning, right up there with assuming maps are always right, and that mildly challenging means I won't need an oxygen tank. This trip was going to be different, I told myself. This time, I'd be prepared. Famous last words. The allure, you see, is undeniable. Those glossy brochures filled with impossibly blue lakes and granite peaks that look like they were carved by a particularly artistic giant with a penchant for drama. They don't show you the part where the wind tries to steal your hat, your dignity, and quite possibly your fillings. But still, I signed up. Let's talk about the scenery. Because let's be honest, that's why people endure the long flights, the questionable food, and the distinct possibility of being blown into Chile when they were aiming for Argentina. Patagonia's landscape is, to put it mildly, dramatic. It's the kind of scenery that makes you feel very small and insignificant, which can be either humbling or deeply unsettling, depending on how your therapy sessions are going. Mountains don't just rise here, they erupt. They stab at the sky with jagged, snow-capped peaks that look like they were designed by someone who really likes triangles. And granite. Lots and lots of granite. So much granite, in fact, you start to wonder if the rest of the world is running a bit low. Take Torres del Paine, for example, the towers. They are, indeed, tower-like. 3 colossal granite monoliths that dominate the skyline like ancient, grumpy sentinels. Getting a clear view of them, however, is often a game of meteorological roulette. 1 minute, sunshine and splendor. The next, a cloud bank rolls in with the speed and determination of a tax auditor, and all you see is gray. A very expensive shade of gray, mind you, considering the effort to get there. And the wind, oh the wind, it's a constant companion, a mischievous poltergeist that rearranges your hair, steals your map, and whispers discouraging things in your ear. Ah, the Instagram version of Patagonia. You've seen it. The lone hiker, silhouetted against a fiery sunrise, arms outstretched in a pose of serene triumph atop a mountain. Their hair is perfect, their clothes are spotless, they look like they've just stepped out of a catalog for impossibly attractive outdoor gear. My reality? Slightly different. My sunrise involved fumbling for a headlamp with frozen fingers, tripping over a tent peg, and discovering that my instant coffee had solidified into a depressing brown rock. The only thing outstretched was my hand, desperately seeking a lost glove. Serene triumph was more like bewildered grumbling. The expectation, effortlessly conquering majestic trails, feeling at one with nature. The reality, gasping for breath on a surprisingly steep incline, wondering if that rustle in the bushes was a puma, or just my stomach complaining about the freeze-dried pasta from last night. Nature and I were certainly together, but at one felt like a stretch. It was more like a slightly awkward blind date where nature kept trying to push me down a ravine. Patagonia isn't just about big rocks and bad weather, though it certainly has an abundance of both. It's a land with its own unique quirks and fascinating tidbits. For instance, the name Patagonia itself is a bit of a historical head-scratcher. It's thought to have come from Magellan, who, upon encountering the local Tehuelche people, supposedly called them Patagones, meaning big feet. Whether they actually had unusually large feet, or were just wearing bulky animal hide footwear, is a matter of debate. Probably the latter. I mean, who goes around measuring feet in the 16th century? Still, it's a better origin story than, say, land of perpetual windburn. Then there are the guanacos. These camelid cousins of llamas are everywhere, grazing nonchalantly on the sparse vegetation, looking rather elegant and slightly disdainful. They move with a surprising grace considering their somewhat gangly appearance. Section 5. The art of getting slightly misplaced, my specialized skill in the wilderness. I have a peculiar talent. It's not one I list on my resume, but it's remarkably consistent. I can get lost. Or, to put it more charitably, creatively rerouted. Even with maps, GPS devices, and clearly marked trails, I possess an uncanny ability to find the one path that leads to mild bewilderment and an unplanned extension of my hiking day. Patagonia, with its vast expanses and occasionally ambiguous signage, proved to be an excellent canvas for my particular brand of navigational artistry. It wasn't intentional, mind you, I just seem to have an internal compass that prefers to point towards interesting detours rather than the actual destination. One memorable occasion involved a trail that was, according to the guidebook, a gentle, well-marked loop. An hour in, the well-marked part seemed to have taken a vacation. Section 6. Packing for the apocalypse and still forgetting the decent coffee. Packing for Patagonia is an exercise in strategic optimism mixed with profound pessimism. You need layers. So many layers. You're essentially preparing for 4 distinct climatic zones that might all decide to show up in a single afternoon. Thermal underwear? Check. Fleece jacket? Check. Windproof and waterproof outer shell? Double check, and pray it actually works. Sun hat? Check. Woolly hat? Check. Gloves? Several pairs because the wind has a known appetite for them. You end up with a suitcase that looks like it's about to give birth to a smaller, equally overstuffed suitcase. It's a marvel of compression technology and wishful thinking. The irony is, no matter how meticulously you plan, how many lists you make, you will inevitably forget something vital. Or, conversely, you'll pack something utterly useless that takes up valuable space. I, for instance, lugged a travel-sized French press halfway across the world, envisioning myself enjoying gourmet coffee amid stunning vistas. The reality? I forgot to pack any actual decent coffee, relying instead on the dubious sachets provided by hostels, which tasted faintly of despair and old socks. The French press became a monument to my misplaced priorities, a shiny metallic reminder of my failings as a sophisticated traveler. Section 7. Creature comforts, when nature gets a little too personal. Patagonia is, undeniably, a wildlife enthusiast's dream. Condors soar overhead with majestic wingspans that make airplanes look modest. Guanacos, as previously mentioned, strike elegant poses. If you're exceptionally lucky, you might even glimpse the elusive puma, though mostly they remain a thrillingly invisible presence, evidenced only by footprints and the nervous chatter of park rangers. However, not all wildlife encounters are quite so National Geographic. Sometimes nature gets a little too close for comfort, or at least a little too close for my particular comfort zone, which is admittedly rather small when it comes to things with more than 4 legs, or too few. Take for instance the Patagonian insects. While not as overtly aggressive as their tropical counterparts, they possess a certain determined curiosity. Flies in particular seem to view any exposed human skin as a prime landing strip and potential buffet. They aren't biting usually, they're just there. Buzzing, exploring your ear canal, attempting to colonize your nostrils. Section 8. Fellow travelers. A study in shared misery, and occasional grudging amusement. One of the undeniable, if sometimes trying aspects of travel is the people you meet along the way. Patagonia, being a magnet for a certain type of adventurous soul, and the occasional bewildered soul like myself, offers a rich tapestry of human interaction. You encounter the hardcore hikers, identifiable by their sinewy calves, 1,000-yard stares, and ability to discuss gear ratios for hours on end. They've already summited 3 peaks before you've even managed to find your coffee filter. They are both inspiring and deeply intimidating, making you feel like a sedentary sloth by comparison. Then there are the gap year enthusiasts, brimming with youthful optimism and an impressive tolerance for instant noodles. They travel in cheerful, noisy packs, their backpacks adorned with flags from every nation they've ever set foot in, or flown over. They are full of stories about full moon parties in Thailand and volunteering with llamas in Peru, and they make you feel incredibly old and slightly boring. But their energy is infectious, even if their taste in music in the hostel dorm at 7 a.m. is questionable. They remind you that the world is big and full of possibilities, and also that earplugs are a sound investment. You also meet the soul searchers. Section 9. The grand takeaway. Was it worth the chapped lips and questionable hygiene? So, after all the wind, the walking, the slightly too close encounters with wildlife, and the existential ponderings brought on by too much granite, the question remains, was it worth it? Did Patagonia live up to the hype, the glossy brochures, the whispered legends of its transformative power? Well, yes. And also, emphatically, sometimes no. especially when I was trying to erect a tent in a gale-force wind with frozen fingers. It's complicated, like most things in life that involve spectacular scenery and a persistent lack of decent plumbing. It's not a vacation for the faint of heart, or for those whose primary holiday goal is to acquire a tan while sipping cocktails. The beauty is undeniable, almost offensively so. It's the kind of beauty that makes you stop in your tracks, mouth slightly agape, and forget for a moment that your feet hurt and you haven't had a proper shower in 3 days. The scale of it, the raw, untamed power of the landscape, it does something to you. It recalibrates your sense of perspective. Your own small worries seem rather insignificant when faced with a mountain range that has stood for millennia, or a glacier that has been carving valleys since before humans even figured out how to make a decent cup of tea. It's humbling, in a good way, mostly. Of course, there's the irony. You travel thousands of miles, spend a not inconsiderable amount of money, and endure various discomforts, all to see nature in its pristine state. And yet, you arrive as part of a wave of other people doing exactly the same thing, all seeking that untouched wilderness experience, collectively touching it quite a lot. We trek on carefully managed trails, stay in designated campsites, and follow rules designed to minimize our impact, all while trying to convince ourselves we're rugged individualists communing with the wild. It's a peculiar dance, this modern adventure travel. Ultimately, Patagonia leaves an indelible mark. Not just on your hiking boots, which will likely never be the same again, but on your soul, if you're prone to that sort of thinking. Or at least on your camera's memory card. You come back with stories, with a renewed appreciation for hot showers and windless days, and perhaps with a slightly altered view of your own capabilities.